Hello, and welcome. So, as promised, we are finally doing part 2 to the eBay haul. So, this haul of stuff really did kind of originate in late December when I was receiving some Christmas money and birthday money, as I pretty much always do around that time of year. Not to sound, spoilt or anything, but it is always that time of year. So I picked up Substance by New Order. So I had seen a few different copies of this in my local record store for sale. There was one which was £30, but it had a big horrible scratch right down one of the records. So I thought, nah, not doing that. And then there was another one for about £70, and I didn't want to spend that kind of money on it either, because original pressings of this do cost that sort of money. And, I could have spent £70 on it, and I could have got it home, and the grooves could have been all worn out. Do you know what I mean? Even if a record is visually graded very highly, it could still just sound really bad. So sometimes when records do get up to that kind of price, you do just have to go for the repress. And luckily in 2023 they did repress this. I think it's digitally remastered, it's not analog or anything, but it was like, I don't know, it was like £30 for, a brand spanking new copy, which no one has fucked with. One thing I do like about this is that I do like the typography on it, and I like the fact that the letters actually do stick out a bit as if they're kind of stuck on. It's really, really classy and very tasteful. The thing with this album is that it's one of those cases where even though it started life as a compilation, it still is a compilation, it's become so legendary. It's a bit like Hatful of Hollow by the Smiths. The compilation becomes as celebrated as the main studio albums. So this is actually regarded as one of the best New Order albums, possibly even the best New Order album, and it's also their most commercially successful album, and it's sold over 1 million copies. But yeah, 12-inch mixes, all the classic songs, the era that you really want for New Order. The first 7 years of the band or so. But the funny thing with this album is that it came quite dramatically different on different formats. The vinyl version, for example, doesn't have as much songs as other formats because of the storage limitations of each format. It just so happens that not too long after purchasing that, I ended up getting the cassette version of the album. It comes over 2 tapes, 2 separate cassette boxes. I think it came in a little slipcase originally. The LP version only has 12 tracks. This cassette version of the album contains 28 tracks, so, so much longer, so much more material on here, so much more substance, if you will. But yeah, you get all kinds of tracks on here, B-sides, A-sides, all the 12-inch versions. It goes on for ages. It goes on for quite an exceptional amount of time, much longer than most commercially released compact cassettes and albums generally. Over 100 minutes of stuff on here. The audio quality is pretty good. These were actually on chrome tape, so that does improve the quality a bit. It's alright, it's a little bit ropey, but it is a tape, and it is also 40 years old. But the manufacture quality on these is actually quite sublime. They're made from a really, really tough, hard plastic. They just do not manufacture them like this, anything like this anymore. The fact that this is like a tape and it still sounds good some 4 decades later is a real testament to that. And I got this set for £9, which is actually quite cheap, believe it or not. This cassette can go for like £24. So really nice to have that as like a double set, really. The original tape from 87 and the 2023 vinyl. If I ever came across the original CD, I'd definitely pick that up as well, so I could have the full trilogy. So anyway, moving on. I picked up a copy of Forever Changes by Love. I already had a 2000s reissue of this, but I just really liked the look of this 70s repress. This is a 76, 77 press of the album. I much prefer the look of the cover, and actually the back cover is totally different. Most other versions of this album contain an image on the back of the band on the back. This one's just got a nice monochrome picture of Arthur Lee, the genius behind the music. And truthfully, I'm pretty sure that my reissue, like 2000s reissue, does sound better than this. I think it's got more bass and stuff. It's just more of a full high fidelity sound. But I'm pleased that I picked this one up because I prefer the label and I prefer the cover. I've still got that other copy to listen to as well, I suppose. I sold it to my brother, but I can just borrow it off of him if I want to. So next up, I picked up a couple of CDs from one of my favourite progressive rock bands,
and that is Gentle Giant. But the thing is, I only went and bought 2 exactly the same. What a donut. Who does that? However, not is all what it seems. You see, strangely, in America, their third album was released with the same album cover as their first album. Yeah, don't ask me how America thinks. Very strange thing to do. So you had their debut record with the that strange man on it, and got to their third album and they just did the same cover again. I've got the vinyl with the original cover. It has a completely different cover, which is far more relevant to the themes of the album. But yeah, in America they just got this again. The album was called Free Friends. But actually looking at these, I have to say that the CD for their first album, this one's actually got much nicer printing on it, much nicer sort of colouring, I would say, whereas this one looks like a much cheaper sort of photocopy. But yeah, if you look at the two side by side, this one does look much nicer. The album cover was drawn up by the guy who went to school with David Bowie, who was the one who got in a fight with him and caused his eye to have a different colour, who did some of the Bowie covers. And this album was also actually produced by what's his name, Tony Visconti. So a couple of Bowie connections there. But yeah, a couple of Gentle Giant CDs. Have them on vinyl, but always happy to pick up CD copies of my favourite bands. I like to have it on dual format if it's very close to my heart. Do any of you feel like that? I'm sure you do. Next up, another CD. We have The Meters with Look a Pie Pie, or Look a Pie Pie? Look a Pie Pie? I don't know how you say it. I've never seen that phrase used for anything else. This was their second album. The Meters are a legendary instrumental, or at least they started instrumental funk band. People know their legendary tune, Sissy Strut. It's iconic. It's basically the theme tune to the Prince Charles Cinema at this point. That was on their first album. This is their second album. But it is just so groovy and funky. I mean, this thing friggin' stinks. It is so funky. It is. These songs will just get absolutely wrangled in your brain, and you won't be able to get them out again because they're just such earworms. So the funny thing with this album, I was thinking about buying this on vinyl. The vinyl for this cost a fortune. Whether it's the reissue or the original, you have to import it, and it's just not worth it. So I ended up picking up a CD version of it from early 2000s, and yeah, I love it. A lot of people won't really understand this, but a lot of the music on this album reminds me of the title cards that we got for a lot of those old cartoons in the 90s. You know how you'd get like the intro clip and then you get like a title card with the name of the episode on and like a little drawing of some of the characters in the cartoon, and you get some funky piece of music. A lot of the songs on this album sound like that. It's brilliant. I got this CD in the post, and we have a little hi-fi system in our kitchen. This is absolutely perfect music for cooking, by the way. If you're ever cooking up in your kitchen, put this on. You're going to be having a great time. It's perfect for cooking. I put it on the hi-fi in our kitchen, and the sound quality of this CD absolutely blew my mother's mind, because my father normally listens to music on Spotify through an auxiliary cable into the audio system that we've got. And the quality of that compared to this is night and day. This sounded so much better. She just couldn't believe how good it sounded. I'm going to attempt to put a sample of this being played through the audio system in our kitchen. I'm going to attempt to put it through the video, but it might get blocked, so we'll have to see. This is good stuff, guys. Guys, you've got to get the CD. Buy it now. But yeah, check it out. Look a Pie Pie by The Meters. I've got their debut album on vinyl. That got a Music for Pleasure re-release. Or music on vinyl, I should say. Next up, I picked up Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. I actually got this a few months ago, but I thought I'd include it because it was eBay. I was a little bit worried about this release to begin with because it's a late 80s reissue, and I got a little bit worried because as you get towards the end of the 80s into the early 90s as well, people just didn't give a shit about records. CDs were taken over as the dominant format.
and so the records were not being as pressed with such care or precision. And this pressing is quite a lot thinner. It's on that generic Motown label that you see on a lot of, like, you know, pound bin records, Diana Ross and stuff. But actually, the sound of this is really good. The records are thin, but the sound is great. You put this album on, and it just lights up the room. You know how certain music, and also certain pressings of that music, you just put it on and the atmosphere it provides just totally changes the feel of a room. Well, this does that. The music is so bright and beautiful and just wonderful. It really does kind of change the tone of a room. It brightens up the room, you know. It adds a lot. It just leaps out of the speakers. It bounces off the walls, and this is just one of those pressings which really represents that. Fortunately, so it's a 1987 repress, probably UK. It's got a barcode, and yeah, a lovely album, of course, from Stevie Wonder. His big commercial peak. You know, the culmination of his golden years. I do have the 7-inch that comes with this, but it's in my 7-inch box. I can't be bothered to get it out. I think I've got a couple more Stevie records to get, and then I'll have like all of the records from the golden era. So next up, I picked up Cunning Stunts by Caravan. So if you'll remember, I picked up a couple of Caravan CDs in Tunbridge, lovely town, and kind of sent me down a path of Caravan, really, and now I'm trying to pick up all the albums from their golden period, and this is one of them. This is probably one of the last albums from the true golden period of Caravan, maybe this and the one after. But I mean, that is quite a dangerous album title, really, isn't it? Cunning Stunts. I mean, you really wouldn't want to try and pronounce that after a few beers. You might end up saying stunning cunt.
This transmission has been knocked off the air due to the use of the word Gant. All I was trying to do was pronounce 100 in Welsh.
But it's quite a good album. Maybe not quite as good as some of the others. Quite nice. Durham CD, of course. It's what we like to see. So next up, I picked up a handful, that is, a trilogy of Sufjan Stevens CDs. Now, Sufjan Stevens is an artist which I have a great deal of interest in. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I think he's one of the best composers and songwriters and singers. Easily one of the best, if not the best, of the last 25 years. I think the guy is actually a bit of a genius, if I'm being completely honest. And I've picked up about 8 of his albums on vinyl. I got them all years ago. I got them like quite early in my vinyl collecting, because he's just been able to produce kind of album after album of quality material. Is really consistent. However, I've picked up 3 more. These were kind of sort of albums which I didn't have, but I kind of wanted to get. These are not probably as great as the ones I've got, but they were definitely worth getting on CD, so I'll talk through them. So we've got his debut album, A Sun Came. Now this is a very strange debut record. He recorded it on a 4-track tape machine, or 8-track or whatever it was, in the late 90s, so it's pretty ropey, but it's a complete mess of an album. You know, there are just ideas all over the place. It jumps from genre to genre. It's just all over. But the interesting thing with it, and this is a thing that's interesting about a lot of artists' early work before they kind of got into their peak period, you can hear his talent and his genius brewing, even though he's not quite there yet. You know, there are these flashes of the kind of, you know, folk genius composer that we later got to know, and on this really, really kind of messy embryonic form of Sufjan Stevens. So it's a really interesting listen. This is a 2004 reissue. It got reissued with different artwork. This is like a £15 to £20 CD. I was lucky enough to pick up a mint copy for a tenner, which was really good. I was really happy with that. This is a long ass album as it is, but this particular CD extends it even further. So we have 21 tracks. This is 80 minutes long. So this really is one for the kind of super fans. You know, this is one for the advanced listeners of Sufjan Stevens. If you want to get into him if you want to just sort of get into him and understand his genius, listen to Illinois and listen to Carrie and Lowell. Those 2 albums are just masterpieces in my opinion. So yeah, but yeah, this is one that you would get into sort of last, really. But it's peppered with great ideas and interesting bits and pieces. So really happy with that purchase. Such beautiful condition as well. So the next album I bought of his is not an album, but it was like a multimedia project. It was from about the year 2008. It was a huge thing for him. It was called the BQE, so I don't really understand this, so I can't talk about it too much, but essentially I think it was like a multimedia project about a highway or a road in America, and he composed like a full album of classical music for it. It's like classical with electronic elements, because that's another side to his sound, like this whole crazy electro thing going on. But you also get a DVD with this set, which I have not watched yet. I'm pretty new to this. You get a booklet, a really, really thick booklet as well. Didn't even realise how much artwork is in that. Blimey. You get a... This is pretty extensive stuff here. You get a lot of stuff. You get this little thing, I can't remember the word for it, but it's like a little... It's like a little spin wheel with like images that you can project onto a wall or something. I can't remember the name for this. Sort of thing I would have had when I was a little kid, like projecting images onto a wall. Honestly can't really remember what this is, but it's part of the set. I can't deliver too much information on this because I'm a bit of an amateur to the whole project, but I'm really pleased I bought it. You can buy this really cheap. You can buy a lot of his stuff really cheap. Yeah, this was only £6 on eBay and it's in glorious shape. So yeah, I listened to some of the music and it's very, it's basically him just kind of flaunting his composer chops, you know. It's not an actual album, it's just music, you know, but it's, yeah, I mean, it sounds like Sufjan Stevens, what can you say? I think he came out saying that this album, as well as a couple of other albums he did, really did kind of drain him as a composer. You know, he was so creative and did such an immense wealth of work, you know, such a dense portfolio of work that it just totally drained him and burnt him out, you know, from just composing so much. It's spiritually draining to do that much creativity. But yeah, that's really cool. The BQE. I've just done like a full review. And also finally I got his album Javelin, which I think is his latest studio LP. It's from 2023. I did buy it on the day of release. I got it on vinyl and I got rid of the vinyl for what some might interpret as actually quite a stupid reason. Essentially the album came with a really thick 48-page booklet, which of course on the vinyl is like this big, and it took up space on my shelf and I just got a bit annoyed with that. I felt like I could use that space for another record, and it's all this like artwork by Sufjan Stevens, because he's also a graphic designer. I mean, the guy just like is a workaholic. Look how much stuff he does, it's ridiculous. Like, he never stops. But yeah, this page is like really these pages are really immense, but I felt as if like so much space on my shelf was getting used up just for like all this like bloody Sufjan Stevens like bloody drag queen artwork, and I don't like that. I don't get drag queens, they're not my interest, and it just kind of annoyed me a bit. So I sold the record and I just bought the CD and you know, did a bit of a downsize, if you like, because I'm sure the quality on this is just as good as the LP. You know, it's a digitally recorded album anyway, it's only a bloody CD put on a vinyl anyway. So yeah, really pleased to have it on CD. It is a good album. I didn't quite get into it as much as I had done some of his previous works, but it is one of his best. Sufjan Stevens is always singing about really heavy topics, like, you know, family dying and like, you know, people's, you know, like some of the really serious issues that he's gone through and stuff. Like, it can't just be anything casual, it has to be like something really serious. So I think his husband died or something, and then like shortly after the album came out he developed like a really serious illness and he had to like work towards going back to like being able to walk and stuff. Like, he's been through the wars, Sufjan Stevens, he really has. Like, he's been through some tough times. So that was that. So I think I'll go for a vinyl next. Far too much chit chat about. Oh dear, I bloody bonked me bloody nose on the microphone. Bloody. Ugh. I've got one more record actually, because I know some of you vinyl people out there probably get bored of me talking about CDs. Quite a few of my YouTube buddies are vinyl only, although quite a few of them are CD only. Funnily enough, people like different things, don't they? I picked this up. This was from Christmas money from my old grandparents. This was Here Come the Warm Jets by Brian Eno. So the funny thing with this is that I already own an original pressing of it on Island Pink Rim. But, you know, some people might think it's silly buying a second copy. I very rarely do. I like to just have one pressing of an album. But this is one of the best art rock albums ever made, like by anyone. Ever. And it's also one of my favourite albums of all time, So I kind of justified it to myself. I wanted to try this out because this is the very acclaimed 2017, I think the year was, pressing of the album. And it was 2017. And the albums were essentially taken from the original master tapes, and they were meticulously remastered at Abbey Road at half speed. And they were pressed on these double 45 RPM records. And I already own the 45 RPM of his second album, Taking Tiger Mountain, and I just wanted to get it for this album. You know, it's an album which is so close to my heart. It's such an odd album. You know, it's kind of like Roxy music, but a bit more experimental. It's glam rock. It's really odd. It's really ahead of its time. I think my friend Ace was listening to this recently and just saying how perfect of an album it was and how ahead of its time it was. How some of the sounds on here were just like, as I say, like ahead of their time. And it's not a kind of sound that many people were producing in 1973. And I have listened to it, and it does sound really good. I mean, what one sounds best, I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I think both have their own qualities. But I was pleased that I bought it, really. You know, I don't have many duplicates, but it's quite a drastically different pressing to the one I already owned, and it is an absolute favourite. It really is. I've always resonated with it. I've always loved the strange quirkiness of it and the odd lyrics and all that. And not to mention that he had a brilliant cast of musicians backing him up on that record. You know, Robert Fripp, Phil Manzanera, different guys from all different bands. So, just a few more to go now. I was lucky enough to pick up a copy of Dr. Octagon with Dr. Octacologist. So this can be a very expensive record. This is actually an American CD. I wanted to get this version of it because it's got this cover, and there's the English version doesn't. But essentially, this is an album by the rapper Kool Keith, and effectively, it is a concept album about a time-travelling alien born on Jupiter who is going around dressing up like a woman and working as a gynecologist, believe it or not. And it's pretty sick. A lot of Kool Keith's music is very sick. He has a very sick sense of humour. This album was actually put out by DreamWorks. Can you believe it? The same people that brought us Shrek. Crazy. But yeah, it's just a really good experimental hip-hop album. It was very influential at the time. I think this is one of the things that influenced Damon Albarn to even start Gorillaz. It was produced by Dan the Automator as well, who did the first Gorillaz album. But yeah, it's a great hip-hop record. I managed to get a copy, a really nice mint copy, for about £15, which I was really pleased about, because this is actually quite a rarity these days. I mean, it's a serious rarity on vinyl. It's pretty rare on CD. So yeah, you know an album needs a repress when it's even rare on CD. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, really. Just a classic experimental alternative hip-hop album from the 90s. So just one more now. Wow, the time goes so quick when you're having fun watching Spectrum Tube. So this one was actually very expensive for what it is. This is a classic ambient album from about 1982, 1984 even, don't know. This is Structures from Silence by Steve Roach. Classic ambient album. Really, really nice synth, what's the word, like synth soundscapes. Really good like sleep music or having a nap or meditation or whatever. Sounds like the kind of stuff that Aphex Twin would be doing 15 years later. And it was all recorded by him. I think it was all quite meticulously composed and sort of planned and stuff. I had to import this from America because there was no UK release of the album. I think it was put out by Virgin when it came out originally, but this reissue was America only, so it's like £15, which includes the import, I guess. But this is one of the only CDs I've ever bought which literally looks exactly like one that you would have pressed up if you were a band. You know how you can just get those companies to like press 100 CDs or 1,000 or whatever? This is evidently one of those that's just made by one of those companies. It's not a CDR, thankfully. It is a properly pressed CD. Because sometimes you get these ones and it's literally just a CDR. You know, it is actually a properly pressed CD, thankfully. But it says, Discmasters on it. And I googled Discmaster, and it's just a company in America, a business in America where you can just get your band's CDs pressed. So it's not like a hugely commercial release, I suppose. You know, I don't know if that many people would have bought this, although it is like a commercial album. You know, it's not like some random thing made by a guy that no one knows about. But yeah, it's a wonderful record. It's like an hour long. The last track, Structures from Silence, is kind of like, much like Brian Eno's Discrete Music, it is kind of like the same thing for half an hour. But it is, you've got to take it for what it is and sort of interpret the music the way that it is meant to be interpreted, which is kind of, you know, music to be ignored or to be noticed, or perhaps a combination of both, sort of like wallpaper music. And you can listen to this music while drifting off to sleep, and then sometimes whilst you get these big rumbles of sort of analog synth, you occasionally notice the character of them kind of washing over you, and then other times you just zone out to it and it just provides the backdrop. So yeah, that was that. Structures from Silence by Steve Roach. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you very soon. Bye bye.